My husband, 33 meters, read my 31F journal. We've been together for 15 years, married for 11. He's really hurt by what he read, and I feel awful. I have emotional regulation issues, so when we fight, we tend to get into these really big blowouts. I was struggling with my mental health, and I was using the journal as a way of getting my anger out without letting the kids see us get into these big fights or, I thought, causing damage to my marriage. It's now basically just a book about hating him. I know part of it is that he shouldn't have violated my privacy, but I've never seen him so broken. I feel absolutely terrible. I try to explain that it's not an accurate representation of our marriage, since I was primarily using the journal when we were fighting, and he seemed to understand, but he still looks awful, and I feel so guilty. I can't talk to him about it in front of the kids, so right now, we're just avoiding the topic. How do I fix this? Too long didn't read, husband read my journal, is deeply hurt, I want to fix it. Thanks for the advice, guys. Please ignore about 90% of the advice on this thread. You are not a terrible person and your husband made a mistake, but it's up to you if you want to forgive him or not. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make a marriage work instead of automatically jumping ship because he made a bad choice. Show me one long-term marriage where someone hasn't screwed up and needed forgiveness. I echo the people who suggest therapy and better communication in the marriage. Your journaling habits and his snooping habits both seem to be a symptom of poor communication. The comments here are incredibly ignorant. As someone with bipolar, borderline personality disorder, general anxiety disorder, and PTSD, I have trouble with emotional regulation. Therapy is not a magical end to issues with negative emotions. Therapy gives me the techniques to control my emotions a bit better and not out them on other people. It doesn't stop me from experiencing an intense negative emotion for little to no reason, it stops me from acting on that emotion. One of those techniques is journal writing. Your marriage isn't bad because your journal is negative things about your husband. Despite well over a decade in therapy, I still split on people I am close to, particularly my spouse and close friends. This means I go from having very positive emotions and thoughts around the person to having very negative emotions and thoughts around the person, often for little to no reason. In order to not blow up my spouse for literally no reason, I sometimes may write my negative emotions down. They are typically not remotely what my feelings for him actually are. This entire comment thread is just a bunch of people who have zero understanding of certain mental illnesses. Your husband had no business reading your journal, and that would frankly be a deal breaker for me. If you're not in therapy, I highly recommend looking for free or sliding scale services in your area. It's not the best therapy and you typically can't get a specific type of therapy, for example DBT for people with borderline, but I personally feel it's better than nothing. You should not be having blowout fights with your spouse. Journaling is supposed to be a technique to prevent that. You can't force others to deal with your inability to regulate emotions. It's not fair to them. Writing out your feelings is very therapeutic. Please don't stop. I had a similar experience to yours where I had a journal and someone read it. After that, I would use my computer to write out everything, and once done, I would erase it. For me, the journal was a way to get out my frustration and feelings, and not a keepsake of past memories I wanted to read again. I'm not going to comment about your husband betraying your trust because many already have. But if you can't trust your husband with your journal and wish to continue writing without fear of it falling into the wrong hands, then perhaps do what I did, type and delete. I have one question. Do you have emotional regulation issues in general, or only around your marriage? Is it possible that what is simmering in you is actually anger that you should be dealing with, even justifiable anger? Have you considered therapy? Because needing to journal this way also sounds painful for you. I have so many questions. How did he end up reading this? Did he have permission to do so? Was he snooping? Did he accidentally stumble upon it and not know it was a private journal? I have emotional regulation issues, so when we fight, we tend to get into these really big blowouts. Are you in therapy for this? On medication? It's now basically just a book about hating him. This isn't really normal. Even if it stems from heightened emotions, I'd say you need to do some deep reflection on why you're constantly in this negative mental space regarding your marriage, to the point where you've practically written a book focused around that. Are your emotional regulation issues only specific to your marriage? Or why is that the only thing you write about? Therapy, if you're not already in it, is a great starting point. Couples therapy too. Bottling up negativity in a journal isn't going to resolve the underlying issues leading to these blow-ups. Thank you for your response. He knew it was a private journal. He was snooping and read it without permission. I'm on medication. Not in a good place financially, so I was holding off on the therapy. Additionally, it'll be for trauma, and ironically, I wanted to wait until we were in a better place emotionally too. This year has been stressful. I guess this turned out to be a mistake. I will start reflecting. My partner doesn't want me to leave if he can't also come. How can I get it across to him that that's not healthy? I posted this earlier and it was removed. Hoping I updated it enough that it can stay. Too long didn't read. My partner gets upset when I want to hang out with friends without him. He wants to be joined at the hip. How do I tell him that it's not a healthy dynamic? Hello, my 26F partner, 26 meters, and I have been together for 1 year and recently moved in together. Since we met in the pandemic, it's really only been us and my family as our bubble of people we see. Now that restrictions have started lifting, I've been wanting to make plans with friends more. And it's becoming apparent that my partner doesn't like this. I never saw the extent of this behavior because, like I said, we met in a time when neither of us was going out. He isn't from the area and doesn't know anyone here apart from my family and 2 of my friends he's met, so I'm his only form of socializing, really. He thinks that he needs to be included whenever I want to hang out with friends, and if I explain that it's a one-on-one hangout, he gets mad and doesn't want me to go. It surprised me because he's never tried to distance me from my family. In fact, many times he'd be the one to suggest we go over and spend time with them. He says he feels left out, it really bothers him, and makes him feel like he doesn't matter. And this includes times when he can't go. For example, he works on Saturdays and gets mad when I tell him one of my friends/siblings asks me to go do something with them, because he'll be stuck, working from home, alone. I understand FOMO, but this feels excessive and controlling to me. I've spoken to my therapist about it and what to say to him about this behavior. My only hang-up is I know he'll say something like, "I've told you it really affects me when you go out when I can't go. Why would you keep doing this? You're in a relationship, it's not just you anymore." I just don't know how to respond. Or he'll say, "If I go, then does that mean you're taking Monday off, or do I have to take Friday off?" Because apparently we need an extra weekend day together, which doesn't make sense to me because on normal weeks we only have Sunday as our weekend day together. Also feels passive-aggressive, especially since he doesn't have much PTO yet. Also, I don't know how to respond when I want to make plans without him on days where he is free. He'll get really upset and hurt if I leave and he has no plans. He's also a logical thinker, so if I say that it doesn't feel healthy to me, or that healthy relationships don't involve always being joined at the hip, he'll ask for concrete facts and not just how it feels or "I've heard that it's unhealthy." Please help me out. I want to know some concrete reasons why it's bad to be joined at the hip so I can have something prepared when he inevitably asks. I just have a feeling he'll try to make me feel like a bad girlfriend for purposely doing something that he's expressed hurts him, and that I don't care about his feelings because he'd never do that to me, etc. etc. Side note, he also has severe anxiety. I mentioned this to my therapist, but she struggled to find a connection between his anxiety and wanting to make sure I'm home if he's home. We both go out together, etc. Since those were never typical triggers for him that I knew of, just thought it was worth mentioning. The problem with trying to find concrete reasons is that there isn't any that are concrete enough to work. This isn't science, it's a social thing, so anything you find will just be opinion, or anecdotal, or not proof enough. Besides, he'll ask for concrete facts and not just how it feels. Your feelings are a valid reason, It's one of those things where you kind of have to stand up for yourself, and tell him I need to be able to do my own things, and you need to be okay with that. Is that something you can do? Let me go out with my friends on my own without making it into a big deal, without arguing, without pouting. Don't make it a negotiation, don't make it a discussion, don't let him try to debate you out of your feelings. He's going to be upset at the conversation. Let him be heard. Is this something you're willing to stake your relationship on? Not saying, break up right now. But, if this is how it's going to be for a long time, or forever, are you willing to break up with him? How does this? He's also a logical thinker, so if I say that it doesn't feel healthy to me, or that healthy relationships don't involve always being joined at the hip, he'll ask for concrete facts and not just how it feels or I've heard that it's unhealthy. Square with this, he says he feels left out, it really bothers him, and makes him feel like he doesn't matter. Do you see how his feelings are framed as logical but yours are emotional? He's not logical, he's controlling. It may be unintentional, but you need to stop this kind of thing now because it will escalate over time. It's okay to have feelings, and logic isn't superior anyway. And again, he's not logical. He's controlling. That's what my therapist said to me too. That I can flip that on him as well and say that I don't like how he expects me to do nothing without him, that it bothers me and makes me feel like he doesn't care about my happiness because, in his view, if he can't have fun then I can't either. Thanks for commenting. I know I need to nip this in the bud and keep a close watch on whether things change or not, because I do not want to wake up years later realizing I've let someone control me for so long. So many guys, and women, I just see it way more in men who say they're logical thinkers really mean that they consider their feelings to be facts and everyone else's to be up for debate. His feeling left out is no more logical than you feeling you need to spend time apart. Actually less so. Because the very real science of psychology supports that people shouldn't be stuck at the hip 24/7. The only concrete reason you need to hang out with your friends is that you want to. Stop trying to defend or justify this very normal want. He needs to accept it or find someone else to be codependent with. Because relationships are 1 + 1 = 2, not some other math wherein you help complete him as a human. You need to tell him it's important for his own development as a human to stand on his own. It's what you presumably fell in love with in the first place. Also, a bit of practical advice: if he can't stand on his own, then holy crap will he be a wreck if you ever broke up. You shouldn't tell him this, but someone should tell him that. It's a rookie mistake admittedly, and why pretty much the first breakup/toxic breakups are always the worst. That's the key, I think. He believes that being in a relationship means always prioritizing your partner, aka I shouldn't do anything that he says hurts him and vice versa. The thing is, he often gets defensive if I do bring something up and makes me feel like the bad guy, though I will say that there have also been times where he's apologized for being too rigid and made an effort to loosen up. Since that's his viewpoint of a good relationship, if I do something that he's mentioned he doesn't like, to him it feels like I'm uncaring and purposely trying to make him feel bad, whereas I view it as having autonomy. And your last point is another thing I've thought of. I know if I ever broke up with him it wouldn't be amicable or easy. I know I'd feel awful and honestly worry about his well-being because I know he has self-harmed in the past. My partner, 36M, and I, 31F, live next door to his grandparents, 80F and 90M. Grandpa is deaf and nocturnal. We are going insane at our walls, shaking through the whole night from his TV. It sounds melodramatic, but it is severely harming my partner's relationship with him, and ours. TL, doctor at the bottom. We are so exhausted, please forgive me if this comes across as complete babble. I just don't know what to do anymore and need some sort of solution. My boyfriend and I have been together almost 10 years, and have lived together since about 3 months into dating. We live next door to his grandparents, and I cannot stress this enough, we love them deeply. My boyfriend had shitty parents, their daughter is his mom, who have abandoned him in turn, and so his grandparents have raised him. They also consider me their own granddaughter, and I too consider them my own grandparents. We rarely have arguments with each other, and when they do they're often resolved well. Grandpa's daily routine is fucked. Once he retired, He took up a life of doing nothing but sitting in front of the TV. Then he started sleeping downstairs in front of the TV. Around the time my partner and I got together, he was cemented in a routine of sleeping on the couch all through the day and staying up all night watching TV. He will not do anything else. I mean anything. Gran has to push him to have a shower and then he will only wash himself in the kitchen sink. As the years have gone by, his hearing has gotten significantly worse, but he has always refused to wear a hearing aid. I cannot stress enough how stubborn Grandpa is. He has always been like it according to my partner and Gran. We have bought him very expensive hearing aids so they're more comfortable, but it's not good enough. We spent hundreds on a reclining bed for his bedroom, as the initial argument for sleeping downstairs was he is more comfortable on a recliner. Also bought him a new TV for his bedroom, but all this ended up being a waste of money as he refused to use them. Now we get to where we are now and he has got his living room TV on at deafening levels from 9 p.m. until 8 a.m. We can hear Gran going downstairs to turn it down, and as soon as she's gone back to bed, he's put it right back up again. Our bedroom walls are shaking from the bass and we can hear the dialogue word for word. Every time we have approached the subject to him, he gets nasty, defensive and says we are ruining his life. We bought him wireless headphones to use, and like the hearing aids, bed and TV, they have gone to waste as he refuses to use them. We have heard every excuse, from the remote control buttons being too small. Bought him one of those universal remotes specifically with bigger buttons for elderly people. He put it in the bin, to it's mine and my partner's fault for having such thin walls. I cannot put into words just how exhausted we all are. My boyfriend works a very active, demanding job and he is knackered. I work from home and do a job that requires intense concentration, and I've had to pull sick days because I can't stay awake. We have 2 dogs whose routine has been shot, because they've been woken up in the early hours of the morning for weeks. They now think breakfast and wake up time is 4 a.m. so on the rare days there's no noise through the night, we're still up because the dogs won't sleep. We haven't been able to relax or enjoy an evening together for weeks and weeks. By the time we've had dinner, we're fast asleep, only to be woken a few hours later by the noise. We are both so irritable. We know we don't mean it, but for the first time in our relationship we're having regular fights over nothing because we are so damn tired. As I mentioned at the beginning, my boyfriend has had an amazing relationship with his grandparents, but it's hanging on by a thread as Gran is partly enabling Grandpa and defending him when she knows he's being ridiculous. Her solution is to sleep it off like she does, which is all fine and well when you're retired, but we have jobs to work. Grandpa is just downright nasty and aggressive when facing any criticism, so I can see why Gran has just given up, but it has really hurt when we have approached them and told them if it doesn't get sorted we'll have to move, to be met with well, move then, or buy earplugs. Which doesn't solve the walls shaking and making us feel ill because it's every night for 2 months now. Can't get earplugs for the dogs either, who wake up stressed and alert from the bass pumping through the walls. Grandpa is 90 and likely not to be around for much longer, and I am extremely concerned this is going to cloud over our memories of him when he passes. I also feel like an idiot talking about this because it sounds so overdramatic, but we are so exhausted I don't know what else there is to do. TLDR, stubborn elderly grandpa blasting his TV throughout the night. Our walls and ears cannot take it. It's sending us psychotic with no resolution or help. Affecting work and relationships, both our own and that with our grandparents. Need sleep.